Poppy, you're a friend and you happen to be a life coach. And we got chatting the other day after I think you listened to the conversation that I had with Nicole, my wife, when she interviewed me, and we spoke about my journey, my story. And I think that was helpful for people to be like, Charley, why the fuck are you doing a podcast about self-development? What do you know about self-development? So hopefully that just brought people up to speed a little bit. But I think naturally there was a tendency to talk about relationships and, you know, how my relationship with Nicole, my wife, sort of evolved and came about, and some of those psychological traits that I had previously that I was able to overcome. And I think that you were particularly interested in the relationship side of things, and we were sort of brainstorming a bit, weren't we? We were like, you know, what do you think people are interested in, and, you know, what am I not talking enough about? And we came up with the idea of, like, you know, why don't we do a little mini podcast on that theme of relationship, dating? I don't know where you want to take it, but you were keen to come and ask some questions and dig a bit more into it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I would add to that, for me, it was spending time with you and Nicole and just really noticing the quality of the relationship that you have. I mean, of course, you're married, you've got a beautiful daughter, but sometimes even within marriages and, you know, children, the actual quality of the relationship between husband and wife isn't actually that strong. And I think when I spend time with you and Nicole, it's so joyful. The love that you have for each other is palpable. And so for me, I thought, okay, so this is rare. You know, what I feel that you guys have, I don't often experience that level of connection. And from that, I thought, okay, so that seems a real shame. And then you and I had some kind of conversations about the clients that you were coaching around relationships, whether it was in a marriage or a dating kind of dynamic, and some of the issues that you noticed were coming up. And then knowing that we're in a loneliness epidemic, that connection is actually the most integral thing for the health and the happiness and longevity, you know, the quality of our lives. And actually, this is the very thing that you and I are both noticing, which is missing. I wanted to spend time with you and just explore what your opinion is, what your thoughts and feelings are, perhaps starting with your relationship with Nicole. You mentioned the psychological traits that you overcame.
Yes.
And that I've heard you saying that your relationship with Nicole and the family that you have now is the biggest testament to overcoming those psychological traits that held you back before. And so what were the psychological traits you had before your relationship with Nicole?
So I was probably riddled with all of them that were preventing me from, you know, leaning in and trusting, you know, a healthy relationship. I think from growing up, I think that the relationship that my parents had wasn't a great example of being open and loving, and I think I was probably conditioned a little bit to feel that, you know, having a girlfriend or having a relationship was probably something you weren't meant to do. It was naughty. Something, you know, talking about girls was something, you know, I was at an all boys boarding school from the age of 7 to 18. Like, I didn't really know, you know, how to talk to a girl or a woman in a relaxed, at ease, being myself, open-heartedly honest. I was always trying to be a certain version of myself to get admiration and love and attention, to try and like win them or like, you know, attain them. I think that I was definitely guilty of, you know, the never enough, and the more girls that I could sleep with or conquer, you know, that was a bit of a rush. And I definitely was slightly obsessed with a certain type of body image, you know, sort of Instagram bikini Victoria's Secrets model, and if you didn't look like that, you weren't really going to get much of my time. I think I was also slightly addicted to that feeling of, I call it a love addiction, not real kind of connection and love. It was that sort of the chase or the rush, or going on a date and thinking it went really well, and then the paranoia and the insecurity of them not really coming back to you. There was sort of all sorts of things that were going on, and I did have a few girlfriends sort of long, for a year and a half, but most of the time I was just dating a lot of girls because either it wouldn't stick, or I wasn't really that keen on a long-term relationship, because I thought it would take away from my independence and my freedom and wanting to do everything that I wanted to do. And I think that was a massive mindset thing, that afraid of like losing your life almost, right? And so, that I had all these things going on, I suppose, a bit of perfectionism as well. And it was through this self-development journey that I went on that I began to kind of be more self-aware, be more psychologically aware of my own traits and why I was how I was, and some of my tendencies. So a great phrase I like to coin is like self-awareness equals choice to change. So once you become aware of this stuff, then maybe you can choose to do something about it. You might not want to do anything about it because you're like, that's just the life. I want to be a womanizer or whatever. But then, so I knew Nicole for 3 or 4 years before we started dating, and we were good friends, and there was a connection, and we always met up and we always enjoyed one another. And I think that's where this compatibility and chemistry thing comes in. So there was clearly some chemistry and clearly some compatibility, but a lot of my traits were kicking in to keep her in the friend zone. Okay. Right. And
so which traits were that was the,
I was like,
you've got to look like this, and you're going to take away from my freedom.
Yeah. It was maybe, I think I knew she liked me. I'm not chasing. What about that girl and that other girl? I don't really want to get into a long-term relationship. A lot of the things that I've already mentioned. And so I think, really when COVID happened and we all slowed down and I wasn't on so many flights and running around and, up in London and dating lots of girls, she came down to stay for the weekend because she was up in London. I was actually down in the countryside, and I thought, well, get out of the concrete jungle and, come and, be in the countryside for a weekend. And things slowed down, and we got together, and then she left, and I went back to, I was like, oh shit, how am I going to get out of this one? How am I going to backpedal out of this? That default mechanism kicked in, and I don't think I messaged her for, I don't know, a week or two, and then I thought I'd sort of wriggle out, how am I going to get back to the friend zone? And
did she message you?
Well, she did message me, but it was a thunderbolt. It was a thunderbolt. I got the long message that basically was like, listen, Charlie, it's really disappointing. It's clear that there's something between us. It's sad. I don't want you to, even if it's not me, it's someone else, I'm worried that you're living this prescribed life. You're so great. I don't want you to be lonely and this, that, and the other. And, it stopped me in my tracks. I was like, shit, because I knew she was right, because it was a lot of these traits that I had already uncovered in myself. So I was aware of it. It wasn't me getting all deceptive. How dare you? You don't know what you're talking about. I knew she was right. And so I went to chat to a couple of my mates, and I said, look, I don't really know what to do, because I do really like her. She's gorgeous, but this and but that. And, but if, what if she falls in love with me? And it was the classic, like, I've got to do something that I'd never done before if I wanted a different outcome. I'm like, do you know what? I'm just going to sounds really cheesy. I've got to open my heart. I've got to dive in without the life jacket, do what feels uncomfortable, and see what happens. And then everything happened. And it's almost scary to think that if I hadn't gone through that self-development and self-awareness and realized those things, I would never be together with Nicole. And Nicole is my soulmate. We're so aligned on our values. We're so aligned with what we want in life. And there's a lot of chemistry and compatibility there. And so that's why I talk so passionately about this relationship stuff, because, you know, it is the bedrock of everything. And, you know, obviously we all want different things in life, but having that connection and the people around you and a solid foundation. So that's why, and that's what happened.
I love it. And well done, Nicole.
Well done, Nicole.
Really well done, Nicole. If she hadn't kind of kept you in check, or however you want to put it, sent that message, do you think that you would have?
Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Okay. And so what would you say to women who are experiencing a similar kind of thing? They're hearing this and they think, okay, so I've been told that I have to wait and the guy always has to chase. Like, do I have to just keep silent, or can I actually just really express what I want, or, you know, all of that kind of stuff?
It's not an easy answer. I'm not going to, you know, there isn't a silver bullet, because got to be a bit careful what I say now. Traditionally, it's the guy, it's the gent that approaches the girl. Hi, you know, would you like to come out on a date? You know, would you like to do this or that? And so often, I think it can be really difficult for women, because you're waiting for the invitation, or you're waiting for the commitment, and it can be, you know, how long do I hold on for? I mean. And then there's the added pressure of, you know, one's biological clock is a lot harder for women. And I've seen it in so many environments, where, circumstances where there's a girl with a guy, they're in a relationship, you know, maybe the guy's messing them around, but that girl is maybe holding on or waiting because, you know, you're in your early mid or late 30s, and you're like, well, shit, you know, if this breaks down, then I might not find anyone else. It might take me 2 or 3 years, and there are pressures. But I think that at the end of the day, it's not worth being with someone that doesn't allow you to be yourself and your whole self. And if it's not right early on, or, you know, you don't know whether this person's committed or not, then getting married or having a long-term relationship is a long, long road. So, you know, you're better off just moving on and trusting in yourself. And I always say, you know, when one's going on a date or dating or courting or whatever, like, it's so important not to try and dress up this ideal version of yourself. You know, we all go on dates and we all try and be this and be that. I say, like, if a guy's going to invite you on a weekend away or whatever, like, be you. If you're messy, be messy. If you don't want to go to the beach, don't go. If you want to go and hang out in the spa all day and have a massage, tell him you want to do that. You know, don't dress it up and then it all goes well and then everyone figures out what each other are really like, and it ends up in, oh, I didn't realize you were like that. Oh no, but I just behaved like that because we were getting to know. It's like, be you, be unapologetically you.
Yeah.
So everyone knows sort of what they're dealing with, and I think that is a good point around Nicole and my relationship, because we knew each other for so long beforehand as friends. Like, she knew everything about me. Like, she knew the warts and all. Like, she knew, and so I've got nothing to hide from her either. And so, like, we talk about everything, and I never feel that there's a no-go area, because if we're just completely open and honest with each other, then you know, you can't go wrong. More to your point, if you're a girl, woman in that situation where a guy is demonstrating some of those traits, then don't hang around for it. You know, either communicate, look, you're being a dick, I'm here, you know, this is my self-worth, I see something in you that is special, we do have a connection, are you going to do something about it or not? Because I'm not waiting around. And then give them the chance. Either they're going to figure it out or not, in the same way that Nicole, if I didn't, then she would have moved on. And you got to, and I think one needs to do that and believe in one's self-worth. And, you know, the more I think women can, you know, not kowtow to being the type of person to you know, to get that guy, like be your whole feminine, you know, beautiful self and be geeky or, you know, do whatever you want to do. Go to the environments you want to go, you know, be that best version of yourself and you will attract that person into your life. You know, I think it sounds cheesy or whatever. We've heard it all before. Like there's a classic example of someone that was in their mid-30s and they were desperate to have a baby. They wanted to find someone, marry them and have a baby now, pronto. And they were on, I think, Hinge or something, and they were dating all these guys, but they kept dating these guys and then they got like, the pressure was too much for them, right? But they didn't tell that person at the beginning that this was really important. And I was like, look, you're kind of better off going on Hinge and saying like, this is me, I want a freaking baby now. Yeah. I'm up for it. Don't get in touch if you're not seriously committed, whatever. And, you know, you're probably going to get maybe, you know, 2 matches instead of 20 that week or month or whatever. But those 2 know exactly what you want. And they did that and they found the person and they went and had the baby, you know? So I think that's a good example.
Yeah. Amazing. I love how you are just so passionate when you talk about being yourself. And if you were to rewind, it sounded like that was the main kind of stumbling block pre being able to be with Nicole, being able to be your full self, was just the inability to really show up as your full self, the fear, the perhaps the fear of being fully seen, warts and all, as you said. And what do you think was, you mentioned kind of conditioning, you mentioned boarding school. So let's kind of think about some of the clients you see. I know that you mentioned, without naming any names, and you haven't obviously mentioned any names to me, but there's one couple and you're coaching the husband and the husband is going through some pretty difficult stuff. And you're in a session with him and he says, I don't think I can talk to my wife about this. And I also, you know, very aware, as we all probably are, of the male suicide, the loneliness, the lack of people just being able to talk genuinely, even to their other half, because they're afraid. And so I'm wondering, without obviously disclosing what happens in those kinds of sessions, is there any advice you can give to people who are just afraid of being themselves, or even where to begin with being themselves with somebody else?
Yeah, so I think, you know, in that circumstance, and I've heard it more than once, you know, if like, say the guy's struggling with something, or they've lost their job, or, you know, there's financial problems, or they're depressed, they lost their mojo, and, you know, maybe their wife's got their own shit that they're dealing with and they don't want to burden them or stress them out, or, you know, it just, to me, this is not a healthy place to be. Like, you have to just trust in each other. One of the hardest things, you know, I think, you know, where a lot of people go wrong, particularly men, is not sharing it with anyone. If, you know, if you can't share it lying at bed at night, that, you know, and have a cry, even if you need to, you know, that, or around the kitchen table with your partner in crime, in good times and bad, like, you know, you gotta, and that lessens the load a little bit as well. And then, you know, you're a team, you know, and you got to know what's going on in each other's lives. And I think a lot of the time that's obviously where things go wrong, when people are so busy and they're living different lives and they're both working and don't see each other very often. And, you know, one has to keep that rhythm going and communication. But in terms of like overcoming some of these conditionings and traits and things like that, I mean, again, there's no silver bullet, but I think, in talking from experience, it all boils down to desire and want to change. And it's a lot harder than people think, because a lot of people want to do something, or want to change, or want different life experience, or, you know, internally or externally. But at the end of the day, like, we are up against all of our conditioning, our habits, our behavioral patterns, things that we do every single day, we think every single day, we feel every single day, and we have for so long. And so to like overcome that inertia, a little bit like me, like I went back to my default pattern, like to really have the courage to push against it, to take off that life jacket and jump into the unknown. You got to have clarity of where you want to go.
Right. And in knowing that what you did previously
wasn't working.
Wasn't the answer.
Yeah. It's like, it's a recognition of like, you want to change something. You want to move from here to over there. Okay, I've got the clarity. And then with clarity comes courage. And then with the courage, you can conquer whatever you want to conquer.
Yeah. Right. Because nothing is worse than repeating the same mistake over and over and getting that same result and getting the lack of connection. And it's so interesting because previously to your self-development and your coaching, you describe yourself as very confident and you had direction. And isn't it interesting that what was underpinning your confidence and your direction was, it seems like, tell me if this is wrong, but a kind of idea about what it was to be successful. And then, as you say, shit hits the fan, and that's the impetus to actually kind of sit down, do some reflection, all of the amazing work that you did. And then from there, you were able to actually jump into something that means more than anything else and gives you so much love. And you guys, you and Nicole are such a team. And it's like the most important thing in life. And I feel that we're all battling that conditioning, that idea of success. And that's what makes us show up on these dates being like, look, I'm great, like this, I'll do whatever you want to do, I'm kind of perfect, whatever. And it's a tragedy because that leads to superficial relationships.
Yeah, it's being unapologetic and unreasonable, I think, on the dates, and that's how you
unreasonable.
You self-select quite quickly, and I think also knowing what's good for you as well. I think and I was definitely guilty of it as well. It's like, oh well, if I ask a girl, okay, so what type of guy do you want to date? And it's like, well, I want them to be this type of lifestyle, and I want them to be like really smart as well, but I want them to be an amazing parent, but I want them to be flexible as well. I want them to like be a family man, and I want them to come and live with me, where I grew up in this country as well. And I'm like, you're never going to get that person.
Yeah.
That's why no one is ever good enough.
Yeah.
And so it's like, come on, let's come back. What are your 3 to 5? Okay, I may, 3 great, but I'll let you push to 5 non-negotiables. And you can write down everything, brainstorm all this stuff, but just write your 5 non-negotiables. And then whenever you go on a date, like if you've been talking to them before, you know much about them, like don't go on a date with them unless they hit your 5 non-negotiables. And then, or after you've been on a date with them and you understood a bit more about them, whether it's kindness or whether they want a family or what is important to them.
Yeah.
If it doesn't tick those 5 things, then don't go on another date with them. But if you go on the date with them and you're like, I'm not sure, but they don't have that. Do they tick your 5? Yet go on another date with them and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there's the other one. There's a great book called Attached, which I don't know if you've read, which is they're those 3 attachment types, isn't it? It's insecure, secure, and
so you can either have a secure attachment or an insecure attachment. So
what's the third one?
There's 2 types of insecure attachment. So you can either have secure or you can have insecure. So one is avoidant and one is anxious. Yes. So you've got secure, avoidant, anxious.
That's it.
So anxious and avoidant are the insecure category. And, I find that so interesting as well. And what I would love to add to that is I'm currently reading a book at the moment by Harville and Hendricks, which expands the idea of attachment theory. And it really shines a light on we are all searching for kind of replicates of our childhood.
Yeah, that's
and
interesting.
we're all kind of searching to kind of heal our childhood wounds with a partner. And it just takes the attachment theory and it expands it a little bit more. shines a bit more light on it. But yeah, attachment theory and how you show up and the kind of behaviors that you demonstrate within a relationship.
Yes, and being aware of that. And
Yeah.
even reading that book was a game changer for me. It's so simple. Like,
What were you?
You either have
you're avoidant,
secure, anxious, or avoidant. And
Yeah.
a lot of guys like me are a hybrid between anxious and avoidant.
Yeah.
So I knew that those were my tendencies. And I think that's why there was always this dance between, girls that I often went for girls that were also avoidant and anxious, and then it would just played havoc with me.
Yeah.
But I knew that because that was my trait, I was anxious and avoidant. So I mean, it's a classic parody because I'm chasing and I'm anxious that I want them to like me, and are they going to reply to my text, and pretty much determined like how I felt that day, whether like it was my turn to reply or their time to reply. But then as soon as they start liking me and I've got them in the bag, then I'm avoidant, right? So messed up.
Yeah.
So I knew that I really needed someone that was more secure and not going to like make me feel anxious about that. And so I knew that that was the type of person that I was looking for. And so again, that creates a filter, a self-selected filter to who am I going to go on a date with or explore with? Because you can waste so much time if like, but this guy or this girl, they're quite fun. They're not good for you, but you're in your mid to late 30s and you're still going to go on that trip or go on that holiday or go to all those parties. But it's not going to end well because you're at different stages or you want different things or, they're not.
So that sounds like a bit of a piece of advice just there. It's just like, if you're ready for something serious, and even if something presents itself as fun but not serious, and you're like, oh, I can have a bit of fun whilst I'm still open to something serious, are you saying don't do that, just concentrate on exactly what your intention is and say no to anything else, even if you think it's like presented as fun?
I think it all depends on your priorities. If you're in your mid-20s, I'm talking about, let's just keep talking about women. If you're in your mid-20s and you're not in a rush and you might want to have a bit of fun, it doesn't really matter. You might meet the one as well. You just go with the flow. Maybe be a bit cognizant about what's important to you. So, what your values are, so you don't end up like marrying the person that you're not compatible with. And you wanted kids. You want this type of life. I don't. Maybe be cognizant of that, But then if you're like 36 and you really want, like, if you could have one thing and rub the genie out the bottle and one wish, it's like, I want to find a guy to get married and have a baby and build a family. I don't know. Like, do you think having fun, going away for weekends, having a frivolous relationship with a fun guy for a month, 2 weeks is a good use of that time, so I think it's about priorities and different times.
And then for people who may not be so kind of familiar with the attachment theory, so secure, basically, even if you are in that insecure attachment where you are either anxious or avoidant when it comes to romantic relationship, through the right relationship you can get to a place where you're secure, and so you're actually allowing someone to see your vulnerability, you're connecting, you're open to being with them and being a good partner for them as well.
Definitely.
Not all about like your needs and what you need to have from them. It's about, this is who I am, this is who you are, and like this is who we can be together.
Yeah, and I think, having Nicole as a clear, secure attachment type, like she wasn't playing games with me. Like she's like, look, I like you, I'm here. And I just had to like just jump in, and that allowed then me to be like, okay, let go. Like this is, this doesn't have to be some crazy back and forth, anxiety, paranoia. It's kind of like, calm waters run deep. And I think a lot of people mistake those sort of, those sort of love addiction, sort of attachment fireworks that sort of, that sort of stimulation that's not like sort of real connection and love. And, our relationship, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And there's sort of, it's just a totally different thing. And, I thought that those kind of feelings that I had before when I was being mucked around by a girl after 1 week or what a day. I love this girl. It's like, no, it's just fucking with my insides, you know? Like,
yeah. And probably if she had kind of reciprocated, you had been like, oh no, don't like her anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in love.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, do you find that your friendships and your family relationships have also improved now that you have like this secure, loving relationship? And that's like, you're noticing the ripple effect. You're able to kind of present more of your authentic self, be a better friend, be a better coach because of where you've come to within yourself and being able to be yourself.
Yeah, look, I think definitely friends, family, siblings, you know, just having more clarity in terms of, you know, how I can communicate and understand their psychological traits and my own, and create boundary. You know, I don't like the word create boundaries because it's a thing that we don't really know necessarily what that is, but you know, pushing back a little bit and expressing oneself that one might never have done, you know, growing up, and what's important, but in a non-judgmental, non-charged, you know, loving way, and able to, I suppose, navigate difficult conversations and challenging relationships at times with loved ones.
Yeah, I love it. And honestly, just being around you guys it's the depth of your relationship and the connection you have. It really is palpable. And I can also witness you with friends, and you just have this openness, and people feel really safe to talk to you, which is amazing. And I think it's those kinds of behaviors that really do have a ripple effect and really do change the world. And we know that people have never been more lonely. We know that male suicide is just on the up. We know that people are suffering from anxiety, mental health issues more than ever. And it's people like you who are just saying, look, it's actually not just okay to be yourself. This is the best thing you can do. So if you've been at boarding school, if you've had parents who perhaps, whatever it is, whatever your conditioning, just kind of go inwards, learn your non-negotiables, as you were saying, learn your values, don't take any shit and don't waste your time. And just make sure that you honor your own truth and let people in. And that is creating a massive ripple effect. And I want to acknowledge you for that. And sitting here doing the podcast, you know, it's sharing this with other people, and the effect of that is just, you know, it's incredible. And it's not easy, right? It's vulnerable. And you can sit at home listening to podcast after podcast, you'd be like, yeah, I know all this stuff, da da da. But it's like another thing to kind of get in a studio and have a mission to want to help people and create change. And no one has all the answers. And it's very easy to not understand like the value of things, I think, not to really appreciate them. And then you experience them, and it's...
Well, look, I mean, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that, Poppy. And, you know, I think why I am so passionate about it all is I've seen in my own life how transformative and what a game changer all of this stuff is ultimately to my life experience. You know, how I feel on the inside, the situation, you know, the life I've created for myself, you know, just how I feel, everything. And it's like, I'm passionate about trying to communicate that to everyone, because there's a lot of self-development. It's a minefield out there, and a lot of people are selling different pieces to the puzzle and things like that. And so I am passionate about it, and can't wait for the book and my course to come out, so that, you know, people can go through these sort of,
same,
you know,
excited.
the different areas of all of this. And thank you for coming in and you know, showing an interest in this. And, you know, it's great to see you being so successful in your own career as a life coach, and, you know, doing your workshops and things. Where can people find you, by the way, Poppy?
If my email, poppycross.co.uk or poppycross Instagram. Don't use Instagram that much, but yeah, people can kind of get in touch but you know what I want to finish with, if it's
Yes,
okay with you?
of course.
Nicole, I asked her some questions, and I think maybe I'll start with the one which is most touching. I mean, they all really are touching, but I love how one of your biggest fears was being trapped and not being able to live the life that you wanted to. And it's just beats
I mean,
you.
sorry, on that point, and I
Yeah.
know I said it earlier, that fear of me losing my independence and,
Yeah.
and being able to be doing what I want, it's actually been the opposite experience, because Nicole helps me do more. You know, we're a team now,
Yeah.
and she helps me do more of what I
Yes.
want to
Yes.
do. So that was a
Yes.
complete, like, I don't know, what do you want to call it, misnomer in my own mind.
Yeah. Right. And it's like the beliefs that we have shapes our thoughts, shapes our feelings, shapes our behaviors, shapes our results, right? And she said that you both enable each other to keep growing. There's open communications on both sides. There's freedom and security to talk about anything and everything every single day. More so, he knows what my priorities are and desires are in life, and is always aware and thinking of ways encourages and supports those wishes. Small unseen and seen gestures wherever possible. Lastly, we both value spending lots of time together, but equally, we also allow for independent alone time, and I think this creates a space for growth. And she said that without the work that you had done, she doesn't think that you would be together.
Yeah, I agree with that.
She said that when she knew you before shit hit the fan in your life and before you had done any kind of self-development, she describes you as formidable, strong-willed, stubborn. You were highly desirable, but you were untouchable. You were living a life that wasn't accessible to her, and you were only ever with a superstar beauty on your arm. You weren't fully present because you always had so much going on, and you were unaware of how special you actually were. And she describes you as always being a deeply kind, loyal, and caring person who didn't quite know it.
Oh, well, I mean, it touches me hearing that. It feels like she's in the room.
Yeah.
And look, I just want to caveat all of this by saying that, you know, it sounds like we're sort of painting the picture of, you know, the dream relationship. To me, it's the dream relationship, but, you know, they're all, you know, we all have ups and downs and struggles, and, you know, we support each other. You know, having a young baby isn't easy, and losing sleep, but it's that over communication. And, you know, I don't know who said it, that a relationship isn't 50-50. It's 100% and 100%. And, you know, you both got to bring everything to the table. And one day, you know, she'll be on 50 and I have to be 150, and vice versa. You know, maybe one day I'm on 20 and, you know, she needs to be up her game, and vice versa. So I really liked that. Poppy, thanks a million
Thank you.
for this.
It's been so fun. Thank you so much.